Number one, real quick, you have one string object created by these. X and Y both store a reference to that object, and then X essentially forgets what it knew. It doesn't know it doesn't store a reference to that object, but Y still has an address to the object. And once again, it's as if I tell a person the address to my house. We both know the address to my house, but then I forget the address to my house somehow. But the other person still knows the address to my house, so it works. Next one, you have two different objects created, and you have two different variables storing the references to the different objects. But that's the whole point, is they're different objects. So the equal sign is going to compare with the variable store, and they're different, so you get false. It should have been what? The equals method. The equals method will compare contents like you should have been doing. Then it would have been true, because obviously they're two different string objects with the same text. And so don't do it that way with objects. And then lastly, this one, once again, it's going to look in the object class for a toString method and find one, so it compiles, but it actually runs the toString method of this object, which is why you see a nice output. Now, the worksheet's called parameters. That's the real point here, and especially right here, look. You have a variable called num that's storing 2, and obviously when you print it, you see the 2 here. And when you've done calling this method, you'll notice num is still 2, which is the whole moral of the story here. Once again, right here, when it calls the do what method, Java passes by value, not by reference. If it's by reference, then num and x would be tied together somehow, and what you do to x would change num. In some languages you can do that, but not in Java. Java, it copies, it passes by value, so the value gets copied out of num into x, and then it gets quintupled, becomes 10, so you see 10 there. Then the 10 gets halved, so you get 5, but none of that affected num, which is, like I said, why it's still 2 when you come back here. Now, on the ArrayList worksheet, first of all, once again, read the code. If you're working with a grade class, look at it. And so I'm saying, now the code you're supposed to have written was first make an ArrayList and know how to write the constructor, get the parentheses over here like they should be. Then you're supposed to fill it with 5 grade objects with whatever data you wanted. But once again, there's 2 steps to that. You're going to call the add method, the ArrayList add method, and you need to make sure you call the constructor for the grade class, which means you need to look at the grade class. It has one constructor that takes a string and a double. And I'm serious, people, they give me garbage because they don't read the code that they're supposed to be using. Okay? And then the next step is to know how to print everything in the list. Well, that's easy. Make a for loop that prints everything. Either version's fine. And the last thing is you're supposed to print every letter grade. Look, the moral story here is not this exact code, but the point is you look at your class, and it has a getLetter method. In other words, the purpose was not for you to figure out how to get the letter grade. The purpose for you is you to figure out how to call a method and everything in the list. Because the quiz is not going to have the same class, not to have the same code, but it'll have the same concept. So just make a loop to go through every object, and then call whatever method you want to. Okay? So that's the thing you need to make sure you know how to do. Questions?